Hey everybody, so I've been getting Reno's CBR500R sorted out. I've rebuilt the forks. I was just in the process of putting the front wheel back on, putting the caliper back on, mudguard on, and then it's done. And then something happened. It's to do with the caliper. The mounting points for the caliper are down here. These holes do not have thread in them. They're just a hole, so the bolt goes through onto the back of the caliper and it clamps together, just so you're aware. Okay, so the problem is to do with the caliper, or the bolts, although that doesn't make entire sense, or maybe even my torque wrench. But I will say here, my torque wrench is a reasonable one. It has got a certificate with it that says it's within 4%, and I have used this on many different jobs, and I have no reason to believe the torque wrench is to blame here. So a while ago, I took the caliper off the bike. I can't remember if I was doing brake pads or it was something to do with the forks again, but when I went to put it back on, I used the original bolts it came with, and I was, snugging them down evenly. Then I started using the torque wrench to get them up to torque, 30 Newton meters. This is a 2014 CBR500R. I have a Honda service manual that states that that is the correct Newton meters for this, 30. It seems not too ridiculous for the size of bolt, so okay. So as I say, I'm snugging them two down, getting closer and closer and closer. One of them clicks, go to do the final click on the other one, and it just keeps turning. And I'm like, oh, just a couple more turns. And it was just at the point you're like, this is too many turns, that of course we've all been there. Bang, the bolt snaps in half. And I'm like, what? This bolt just snapped in half before it reached its torque value for tightening it up. I thought, okay, maybe it was previously over-tightened. Maybe there was an issue with it, whatever. I'm just going to buy brand new caliper bolts and replace both caliper bolts. Did that, bought two new caliper bolts, put those in with the torque wrench, the same torque wrench, torqued them up, no problem, everything seemed perfect. Skip forward to, as I say, yesterday when I was putting this back on the bike, putting this back on with these, which have been used once, they have been torqued up once, these bolts. Again, side by side, snug it down. One of them kept turning and snapped. It actually snapped on this hole. This was most of the way out, thankfully, so I had enough room to be able to cut a head into it and undo it. I've got a few scratches on the back of here, but I got it out. But as you can see, this is full-on twisted apart. So you're like, okay, is it the torque wrench? Is the torque wrench, like, not stopping for some reason? And I'm not entirely convinced that's the case, because the top one was fine, and the ones that I've used before were fine, and when I've rebuilt two bikes with this, it was basically fine. I don't understand this. The fact that it happened once before is odd. The fact that it's now happened twice is even odder. Now, unfortunately, because the bolts are steel and this is alley, it did actually slightly damage the thread. It's not really removed any, but that, let's see if we can get this completely still. Yeah, that is too much movement for me. If you compare it to the other hole, it's not as different as I thought, but I just don't like the wobble on that one. And for a brake caliper, just no. I mean, I could drill it and helicoil it, but this is Reno's bike. We're going to do the best thing we can do. So went online, thanks to eBay, and managed to pick up an entirely new caliper. Well, used but in good nick caliper with the bolts, even with basically new brake pads. For 40 quid delivered. So, damn deal. And what I'm probably going to do is just take the backing plate off and switch it over rather than switching the whole caliper over. And we can keep this as a spare should we have any problems in the future. And it's come with the original bolts, which is nice. But obviously, I'm now like, do I want to try and do this up to the same tension? I should probably borrow another torque wrench to do this time, just to take this out of the equation. But have any of you heard of anything like this, any weirdnesses? Because it doesn't make any sense to me that a bolt will snap before it gets to its torque value. Now, normally, obviously, a torque value, if it was at 30, I'd expect that bolt to maybe take 50 or 60 before it's going to break. But the way this broke is just very, very catastrophic looking. It looks like it's been well over-torqued. But it can't have been. Or can it? Because as I say, the top bolt, click, click, no problems at all. When they were putting before then, no problems. With using this torque wrench and loads of other stuff, no problem. Now, I understand I'm asking the internet for their opinion here, but I'm going to request one thing. If you know what you're talking about, I'd love to hear from you. If you're not really sure what you're talking about, or you're just going to kind of make stuff up, please don't. there's so many times I will ask a technical question and have people try and give me answers to it, and in their answer it proves they don't understand the subject on a base level, let alone the level we're going to when we were talking about it. So I don't want to have a million comments of people just saying it's the torque wrench. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it doesn't make sense. Like, this one isn't stretched in any way. This isn't damaged in any way. This is absolutely perfect. And the torque wrench said this was a-okay at 30 Newton meters, and this one it snapped. And as I say, if it had been a one-off, I'd blame the bolt, but now it's just 2 bolts in a row. Is there something that can happen that can cause it? Am I missing something here? Is there some old fable I don't know about? Or is it just, I'm cursed? Let me know in the comments. Bye-bye.